Am I the asshole for crying after my baby's gender was revealed? My wife and I were having a gender reveal for our first child. My wife doesn't mind what gender the baby is, she just wanted to get a few friends and family together for a small party, and she was under the impression that I thought that too. Neither of us were interested in doing anything big, we just had a friend to read out the letter and reveal the gender. I didn't tell my wife this, but I was really hoping for a daughter instead of a son, so when it was revealed that we'll be having a boy it really upset me. I didn't want to ruin the day though, so I just tried to act normal and celebrate with my wife and the family. Later on, after everyone had left, I was alone in our room whilst my wife was downstairs. I was sitting on the bed and just started crying. I don't often cry, I think it's a waste of my time and unnecessary, but I was just really panicking. I really wanted a daughter because my dad was really shitty to me and he messed me up a lot. I'm scared that I will be the same to my son. I don't want to fuck my son up like my dad did to me. I've been scared about turning into my dad since before I met my wife. The big reason I didn't want kids originally was in case I treated them like my dad treated me. My wife walked in on me crying and I tried to explain why without talking about my dad much. She doesn't know anything about what my dad was like. She told me that I was selfish and called me a few other things. Then told me to sleep on the couch. She hasn't really been the same with me since, she's still really annoyed. Am I the asshole? Edit: I'm not going to reply to all of the comments, but I have read them all, so thank you so much. I am going to try and find a way to tell my wife about my childhood. I've just never spoken to anyone about it before. You need to talk to your wife about your trauma, not Reddit. Nah. I hate to call you an a-hole because once you explained why you cried, I really got it. And it's kind of heartbreaking. But you didn't explain any of that to our wife, who just thinks you're upset about the gender for shallow reasons. I really hope you go to therapy or even just a support group. You deserve to feel better about yourself and your capabilities. You can also find parenting classes and groups. The fact that you want to be a good dad already means you're better than your dad, and I have every confidence in you that you can be a great dad. You're the asshole. This was trauma and expectations to manage before getting pregnant. Being disappointed that your child is one sex or the other is messed up, no matter what the reason. You need to deal with this ASAP. Your wife is right to be angry, and I'm sure it's going to be hard for her to get over it herself, so be patient with her. I saw the first half and was ready to go in all guns blazing, but having read it all currently, no, I'd say this is nah. But if you don't get therapy to work through your trauma, then you will be TA. The gender of your baby will not decide if you are a good parent or not, and you are not destined to become your father. But you need to work through this for everyone's sake. Yeah, you're the asshole. Why are you having a kid when you haven't dealt with your own shit or even shared it with your wife? You have X number of months before that baby comes to get your ass into therapy and get your shit together. That kid's counting on you. Just out of interest, why would you fuck up your son but not a daughter? Why would you treat a son and daughter differently? Why would you commit to having children with this fear? It's not fair on your wife. Sorry for your shitty dad, but in this situation, you're the asshole. I don't think there's an here, but you really need to talk to your wife about your dad and your fears. This should have happened before you even got her pregnant, but it needs to happen now because as a mother I fully understand why she's upset with you right now. If she doesn't know your trauma, she can't possibly understand what your fears are. Talk to her, man, openly and honestly and vulnerable. Tell her everything. This doesn't have to drive a wedge between you, you can come out of this even stronger than before. How do you expect your wife to understand your feelings when you don't communicate them? I think Opie also need to go to therapy. You're the asshole. Gender disappointment is a thing, but the reality here is that you've somehow pinned your ability to not repeat the cycle of poor parenting on the idea of having a girl. Your wife deserves to know your upbringing and your fears because it plays a crucial role in the trauma and triggers you may have as a parent. You need some therapy op. You need to apologize for ruining the fun and happiness, and then have an earnest heart-to-heart. Well, cannot really say you are an R. But, you should talk about what you went through with your wife and reconcile. Not the asshole. But you need to be more open to your wife and communicate with her. It's okay to be scared as soon-to-be parent, and since you had a traumatizing person of a dad, it's obviously okay. But your wife just thought you were crying cause you didn't wanted a boy. So you should be more communicative with your wife and take some parenting classes to prepare beforehand. Hope you will do good in future. Not the asshole for being scared. But you should absolutely explain to your wife what happened with your dad and why you're scared. This is not something you can avoid mentioning at this point. Technically, but only because you need to actually talk to her so she can understand why you are actually upset. I don't know why you haven't told your wife, but now's the time. This will not be the last time you need to handle your feelings about your own childhood, and you'll be the asshole then too for the same reasons but a lot less technically. You can fix this dynamic right now. The problem here wasn't your feelings about your father and the lingering pain from his mistreatment, and your fears of being an inadequate father. The problem here is your failure to communicate your feelings to your wife. You're the asshole. You didn't even explain why you were upset, you lied to your wife. Get therapy, because if you continue like this you will fuck up any child you have no matter their gender and you will end up divorced. I don't like kicking a man while he's down, but you're the asshole to you and your wife by not, at least in the vaguest sense, talking about your fear of continuing the cycle. You and your wife should be partners, and she can't help you if you don't tell her what's wrong. From her perspective, you got so attached to a girl that you're getting upset, possibly to the point that you will treat your son badly. Do not become a self-fulfilled prophecy. Talk to your wife and explain what's wrong as broadly as you're comfortable with. Not for crying, but dude, you will be the asshole if you treat your son any differently than you would have a daughter. Look into therapy. Now. Tell your wife you want to seek help. Break the cycle. There was a 50-50 chance and you did nothing at all to prepare for this outcome, and it sounds like you knew you would feel this way. You're having a kid now, so better really work on your anticipation and prep work, even when it comes to your hang-ups issues. Your gender had nothing to do with what your dad did to you. I'm really sorry, but you have to know that, it doesn't matter what gender your child will be, you should love and treat them the same way. You have the chance to raise your son better than you were. Take this opportunity to give him all the love you never received. Let this also be a lesson in why you should communicate wants and fears with your wife. A gender reveal party shouldn't happen if one parent has a really strong preference. Communication would have saved you so much grief. Soft hurter. Not the asshole, but it's time to sit down and tell your wife the truth. She will support you and understand more. I'm not sure how to vote because you're not the R for crying, but how are you married to someone who doesn't know such a big part of your life? You're the asshole for having a gender reveal when you're that invested in the gender, never getting therapy if it was accessible, and for not revealing the trauma before getting married. You're the asshole. You're allowed be scared given your past. But you have two options. I recommend 1. Tell her everything. 2. Pretend nothing is wrong. You can't be openly upset with the person growing a baby and not tell her why. Write it in a letter if talking is hard. Or invite her to a joint therapy session. Nah. You need to talk to her. Your fears will make you a great parent because you always take care about how you treat your child. She will understand, but you need to be honest with her. She is having your baby. Congratulations to both of you. Tell your wife about your dad and your fears, FFS. She's not a mind reader. Of course, she thought you were an R because you're not being totally honest with her. Having a loving relationship with your son could actually be really healing for you. Get some therapy.